the story of Abhinavagupta. What's this? Long ago, in the valleys of Kashmir, lived a man who would soon change the perspective of art, literature, and religion in Kashmir. His name was Abhinavagupta. With a history and background of scholarships in his family, and in a place where scholarship and merit were the only criteria for excellence, Abhinavagupta was bound to become a great scholar and author. Let's hear him tell his story. Namaskar, I am Abhinavagupta from Kashmir. My uncle was a great poet, and my father, Narahimsa was amazing at grammar, logic, and literature. In a place where all these things are considered to be excellence, I shall continue the family tradition of scholarship and change Hinduism and Kashmir forever. At 2 years old, Abhinavagupta lived with his two parents. His father was Sri Narahimsa and his mother was Vimla. As a mark of reverence, he refers to her as Vimakala in his writings. His father taught Sanskrit grammar, which is also why young Abhinavagupta learned about it from a young age. Just a few years after, while Abhinavagupta was still a child, his mother passed away. Abhinavagupta was very attached to her and helped influence him to become who he was. My wife passed away just a few days ago. I figure it's been taking a toll on my mental health greatly. From now on, I will be following ascetic principles, living a life that is simple and strict. I will also pass these lessons down to Abhinavagupta so he can learn from them as well. With these principles, he taught young Abhinavagupta about asceticism. Abhinavagupta learned about grammar, logic, and many more from him. By following ascetic principles, I will not buy expensive clothing, get involved in politics, or go to concerts. All I need is a simple and happy life with just my pen and paper, attaining enlightenment and teaching more about Kashmir Shaivism and Hinduism. What is Kashmir Shaivism? Let's put it this way. Imagine that this world is a play. Who is the director? Who are the actors? And what is the stage? Kashmir Shaivism directly tells you that you are the God that you are looking for. In many other religions, the creator and creation are two different things. You are the creation and the God is the creator. In Kashmir Shaivism, the creation and creator are basically the same thing. That means that you're the director, actor, and stage. Abhinavagupta, at a young age, picked up grammar, logic, and literature very quickly. He could comprehend even the most difficult of words, and his speech was very elegant. Going to school, Abhinavagupta continued to learn more about literature and logic, along with art and philosophy. Later in life, Abhinavagupta went and learned from many gurus about different points of Hindu philosophy. Today I went to 3 gurus who taught me in the respective areas. The first was Acharya Lakshman Gupta, who taught me all about Pratyabhigya, a school of philosophy in Kashmir Shaivism. The guru of Gala, Sampradaya Swami Shambhunatha, taught me distinctive rituals and symbolism and how they connect to the goddess Shakti. Sri Bhattandaraj, the guru of grammar of poetics, taught me about poetry and their connections to rasas. With the knowledge that I have learned, I can create my own stories and works and teach them to other people, therefore popularizing Kashmir Shaivism around the globe. Abhinavagupta credits his gurus with great respect in his writings. He also credits his students as well for them having great respect for Abhinavagupta. In the beginning and ending of each and every work, he will always credit his gurus and students. He had more than 10,000 students in Kashmir alone and respected each and every single one of them through his writings. Amongst my followers, whether it be a Brahmin, an untouchable, whoever has a pure mind and sets the path of Bhairava will become one with God. His works were mostly about describing many sacred texts and the meaning of mantras. In total, there were about 41 works that he authored. They could be categorized into 4 categories: original works, commentaries and critical writings, literary works, and devotional poems. Within these categories, there were a few works of his that were extremely popular across the globe. The most popular in original works and in any work was the Tantra Loka, a 37-chapter book. After he was enlightened, he wrote the Tantra Loka. It has been said to be one of the greatest accomplishments in Indian theology. He took many authoritative texts and scripts and put it together, analyzing them for more people to understand. The first half of the Tantra Loka describes the philosophy of Trika, the second half describing the rituals. The first chapter explains all the essential teachings condensed together. Another one of his big works was his commentary on the Bhagavad-Gita. There have been many commentaries about it from many authors across India, but like mentioned earlier, many of them have been lost through the tides of time. Abhinavagupta, however, was the only one to stay afloat. In his commentary on the Gita, he dissects the essence of each chapter in the Gita, taking texts and analyzing them so that more people could understand. For example, in the first chapter, he explained that there is always an ongoing war in your emotions. Joy fights with sadness, and anger fights with calmness. You must observe this war in your mind, and that way you will get rid of it, just like that, and maintain peace. This was his conclusion of the first chapter. Every chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita has a conclusion written by him as well in his commentary. He didn't just write about commentaries on other books, however, he also wrote about dances. In this new work I just created, called the Abhinavagupta, I wrote about the Natya Shastra, a religious text and treatise on dance. It is one of the oldest commentaries about the Natya Shastra. All other commentaries were either significantly modified to the extent where the original versions were lost or other commentaries were destroyed. I covered many of the main points of the text at many levels. I cover almost every aspect of the book and explain it, which is very important for historians today. In the Abhinavagupta, I go into detail of what Asian drama was like and how it was performed. The first chapter explains how the Natya Veda was created and what its concept was like. I then explained how it was related to spiritual practice. The elaborate expressions made it easy to understand the Natya. All these works of Abhinavagupta, the dances, commentaries, and philosophical concepts all fall under the Trika philosophy. Some other things that he analyzed were the 8 points of rasas. Rasas are points or elements of aesthetics. Aesthetics are things that make people feel interested on how it looks or feels, like flowers or a certain trend. They are also associated with color. In the past few months, I have spent my time on my works elaborating on rasas, like on the Lokana of Dvanya Loka and the Abhinavagupta on the Natya Shastra. Both these works include almost all points on rasas. Abhinavagupta states that by removing ignorance and through knowledge of Brahman, appreciation for art, music, literature, and poetry could be increased. Not much is known during the time of his salvation. While attending Nirvana, he was said to have entered a cave, named the Bhairava Cave. I figured that my job is complete. I shall go and enter the spiritual world. I hope that future generations and all future generations will benefit from my writings. My students will continue spreading my lessons to other people, and the rest of Kashmir and the world will hopefully apply the lessons learned in my texts and writings into their lives. He, along with his disciples, recited the Bhairav Stotram as he was entering the cave, even mentioning the date as well. The light that emerged from Kashmir through Abhinavagupta and his disciples expanded throughout the world over the next few centuries and continues even today, but it wasn't always smooth. The Alps took over, erasing and burning all traces of literature in Kashmir, destroying temples, homes, libraries, schools were burnt to ash. Kashmir was in a state of despair and desperately needed help. What is this nonsense? This is contrary to our philosophy. Burn everything down. The homes, places of worship, everything. Most of Abhinavagupta's works were burned down in this period and haven't been recovered since. However, this wasn't the end. The works remaining after the attacks were consolidated again by Swami Ramji Maharaj. As time passed, Swami Ramjas Maharaj reached Swami Lakshmanji. He created an ashram where Indian and Western scholars performed extensive research on Kashmir Shaivism. Since publishing these books, the philosophy brought back Kashmir from the darkness of the barbaric attacks. All in all, Abhinavagupta's works helped many people across the world to understand Kashmir Shaivism, and the many famous texts, he has helped many people understand the Trika philosophy and still continues to this day.